welcome to the CDO Magazine interview series. I am Kellie de Leon with Treasure Data, and we are partnering with CDO Magazine, MIT CDO IQ, and the International Society of Chief Data Officers in a series of interviews. Today, I have the pleasure of talking with Brigette Guyer, the Director of Data Governance at the Wendy's Company. Hi, Brigette.
Hi, Kellie. So great to be here with you.
Thank you so much for taking some time to chat with us. I'm excited about our conversation to kind of explore all of these different topics that are so relevant for today.
Yeah.
So let's just jump right on into it. I want to talk a little bit about sort of leadership in data privacy and some of these sort of bigger issues that are, umbrellas into what you do. So first and foremost, I'd love for you to just start by sharing a little bit more about how you would characterize your role and the value that you bring to an organization like Wendy's.
Yeah, so, it's interesting. In my role, I do data governance and also lead our data privacy management practice that we have at the company. And so I certainly see myself as a strategist, really trying to partner with different parts of the organization, understand their objectives, and support sort of meeting those objectives with data, but doing it in a way that we know that we can trust the data, and that when we are dealing with data subjects, that we are protecting their data and also meeting or trying to meet like customer expectations around their preferences with their data, which I think we're seeing a lot in the industry. And so a strategist, a support function, and also like just a general, really trying to keep in mind what are the objectives of our business, but also our customers and the data subjects that we're working with in our industry.
That's such an important perspective. I think I'm sure that someone in your role really does sit at this intersection of the organizational goals and needs, as well as obviously the need to, protect and respect the preferences and needs of the customers who are sharing their data with you. And certainly working for a consumer-focused brand like Wendy's, that's certainly paramount. It's, growing in importance for every single business these days to be thinking about data privacy and how you balance all of this complexity. Can you lay out your point of view or your perspective about data privacy in such a complex environment?
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because I do play the role of Wendy's data protection officer. So when you highlight that balance between achieving and supporting business objectives, but also really thinking about data subjects or our customers and their, the protection of their data, I really am sort of sitting or straddling that balance there. So the way that I really have tried to embrace it, and that we are focused on really trying to develop, is we definitely want to be transparent in what we're doing. But the reason, like generally, that we are collecting data and using data is to give that better customer experience or better employee experience. And so that really helps keep our business objectives sort of aligned or balanced with that other hat that I have to wear when I have to think about, okay, so how are we protecting customers' data? How are we making sure that we're doing the right thing for our data subjects? With those business objectives kind of running concurrently, yes, there are certain things that we have to do to meet regulatory expectations. There's things that we have to put in place. We have to have processes for that. But it doesn't feel as hard when those two things are running in parallel. And so that I think I'm positioned well with that being sort of our business objectives and goals, is to really provide our customers with the best experience and our employees with the best experience.
I really love how you put that. If you can remember that the customer experience and putting that customer or that employee first and at the core of the objective, and thinking about how the strategy and processes need to support that. If you can keep that as your North Star, that's a great perspective. I love that. Can you share some of the biggest challenges that you face in your role?
Well, the regulatory landscape, number one challenge, and especially in the US, where we see so much shift right now when we have individual states coming out with privacy laws, when we know that there's potentially, federal legislation that's pending, and then with Wendy's, we are an international brand, and so we also have to meet GDPR. We're in Canada, and so it ends up being really complex. And so I would say, some of the biggest challenges are taking the complexity of that regulatory environment, the regulatory landscape, how it's changing, and creating processes that sort of meet those objectives, that protect our customers, but also meet their regulatory needs, and making those operational and making them effective, but without putting too much burden on our business partners. Our marketing team is out there trying to market, right? Like they're trying to come up with really great tweets and coming up with strawberry frosties, and how are we going to advertise our strawberry frosties, and so really kind of taking those concepts and that complexity and trying to create processes that are operational and effective for the organization. That's challenging, but that's kind of what we're constantly focused on and really trying to establish.
That's great. I think part of what you shared is a challenge that's common to so many, and we hear that as well. Whether it's someone in your role that is having to navigate being in a global environment and all of the different regulations that you might have to manage, or even having to work across, brands within a family of brands and manage
Sure.
all of those different preferences. So I think that's a common challenge. And of course, probably just as soon as you think you've got it solved, there's going to be a new regulation or something that changes. So it is a constantly changing environment that I'm sure requires you to be quite nimble. One of the things that I really appreciate you talking about is needing to figure out the right way to sort of balance all of those operational needs, to meet all of those requirements, but trying to make sure you're not making it too cumbersome or too complex for those business users that obviously need to be able to be agile and be effective at their job. And so I wonder if you could just talk a little bit about, as you mentioned, working across different geographies and working with different, business users and business departments. How do you approach breaking down those silos and partnering with other leaders in your company to make sure that there's, kind of a holistic approach?
Yeah, well, I think, number one thing, you really have to think about what part of the business are you speaking with, and what are their objectives? What are they trying to achieve? And then, we understand that there's a compliance piece to what we're doing in data governance and privacy management. We have a phenomenal legal privacy team that works with us and supports us. But when we talk to our business partners, while there's that compliance piece, I really try to focus on and continue to come to them with, how can we help you? How can we standardize this for you? How can we reduce operational drag with having to do these things, and these things that are changing? So how can we set up services or processes that automate things for you, or that we kind of run centrally through our program, and we engage you, we understand your objectives, but it's not necessarily something that, every time there's a shift in the regulatory environment, that the work is landing on you, or how can we at least manage that so that it's the least amount of impact. And I think when we take that focus with our business partners on how can we help you, how can we enable you, some of the things that come up are just the actual customer experience when interacting with us, and being very sensitive to some of our business partners. Like, that's what they're thinking about and worried about. And I think just being aware of that and trying to partner and think about those objectives and sort of what's going to be paramount for that business function, those business partners, and trying to address that and meet them with what they're trying to achieve. That's some of the most sort of important aspects of how we're successful in what we're doing in data governance and privacy management.
Thank you so much, Brigette, for this conversation. It's been really great to learn from you and your perspective and all of the ways that you're thinking about navigating this really complex environment that is changing so rapidly, and such an important role that you play. So thank you for joining me today for this conversation. And for those of you who are watching, please visit cdomagazine.tech for additional interviews.
Thanks, Kelly.
Thank you.